Hey everybody, how you doing? Steve Billman here. Thanks for joining me today. Hey, we're going to continue on with our series of harmony for songwriters. And today we're going to get into a really interesting subject, which we call modal interchange. And I'll explain what that means in a second. But just to kind of go through quick review of what we covered in previous videos. Um, we first encountered the major scale. uh, we turned that major scale into a system of chords, of triads and seventh chords. We harmonize by harmonizing it. And then each one of those chords fit into one of the three categories, either the tonic chord family, the subdominant chord family, or the dominant chord family. And we did the same thing with the G minor key as well. And then within each one of those keys, within its own family, we were able to substitute these what we call diatonic chords, one for another, to kind of create a different little variation within a progression. So if you have the same chord progression happening over and over, by using these diatonic chord substitutions in each one of the chord families, you can sort of expand the progression and make it slightly different so that it's not so repetitive. And that works really well. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to combine the major chord families with the minor chord families. So now we're not staying within each of the diatonic families. So we're mixing the major and the minor, if you will. And this is going to bring a little bit more surprise to the listener. It's going to be a little bit more dramatic because we're going outside of the key. Remember, G major has one sharp, F sharp. G minor has two flats, B flat and E flat, right? So there are going to be non-diatonic, what we call non-diatonic notes that we're going to use within the structure of this progression now. Remember, diatonic means it's in the same key. Non-diatonic means it's outside of whatever key you're in. It's outside of that. So when you go outside of the key you're in, it's always going to bring surprise. It's always going to bring a little bit of tension and a little bit of richness to your progression. So modal interchange basically is borrowing from the parallel keys. Now, I talked about this before, but the parallel key of G major is going to be G minor. When you go to the parallel key, you keep the root. So in this case, G is the root, and you just switch from major to minor, or it could be the opposite way, minor to major. Doesn't have to start in a major key and then go minor. It could start in a minor key and go major. But the idea is that you're going to switch between the major and the minor, and then the root is going to remain the same. So, key of C major, the parallel minor key of C major would be C minor. Keep the root, major goes to minor. In the key of A minor, the parallel key, keep the root, A, minor goes to major. So the parallel key of A minor would be A major. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I need you guys to do is have your sheet that we did in the prior video of your major scale harmonized and your minor scale harmonized. That way, as we pull from these different chords, you're going to be able to see and understand directly what it is that we're doing. So make sure that you have that up, you have that next to you. Eventually, I would really encourage you to memorize it because, again, we want to internalize all this stuff so that it comes out naturally. It's not something we have to really think about, but that it'll just start to come out. But that takes a little bit of time, work, and effort to do that. But for now, just have the sheet there, and as we go through and start borrowing from G minor, you'll be able to see what we're doing, okay? So I'm going to start the progression in G major, and it's going to be a 4-bar phrase, but the progression, I'm going to make an 8-bar progression, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to play a 4-bar phrase in G major, and then right now, we're just going to repeat that 4 bars. So first chord, G major, D major, C major. Okay, so that's 4 bars, right? Each chord is getting 1 bar, 4 beats, per bar. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same progression and just play it another 4 bars. Gives me an 8-bar progression. bar, I'm repeating that. G, D, C, and the 8th bar back to G. Okay, so in that progression, I'm just doing the same 4 chords twice. That's all I'm doing. Not a bad progression. You could write a song based off that progression and it would be fine. This modal interchange concept is not something you have to use. It's just there for you, like any other tool, in case you find that you need a little more variety with the progression, or you want to create something rather dramatic in your progression. Okay, and that's what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to keep the first 4 bars. I'm going to keep exactly the same because it's it's a cool little chord progression. Okay, so for the first 4 bars, it's exactly what I just played. When we go to the 5th bar, I'm going to keep the G chord, but instead of going to the 5 chord in D, I'm going to go to the 5 chord in G minor, which again, if you look at your sheet, it's a D minor chord. Now, I'm going to use the 7th chord, so I'm going to use it as a D minor 7. But that's just my choice. D minor would work as well. So on the 5th bar, it's G major. The 6th bar, it's D minor 7. And then I'm going to keep the C chord like I had before on the first 2 beats of bar 7. And then I'm going to go to the 4 chord of G minor, which we know is C minor, for beat 3 and 4 of bar 7. And then on bar 8, I'll go back to the G major chord, the 1 chord in major. Okay? So I'm inserting 2 chords from the G minor scale in there, D minor 7th and C minor. It's bringing some non-diatonic notes. Instead of the D chord, which is F sharp, on the D minor 7 chord, I have the F natural. Okay? So that's one that's outside of the key. Then the C chord, then on C minor, I have an E flat in there. And again, there's no E flat in the key of G major, it's E natural. So I'm bringing an outside note into my progression using modal interchange. All right, so you get the idea. So let me play the progression now as an 8-bar phrase. Now it's an 8-bar phrase, right? Because I changed the chords and they're not exactly the same. So again, this is the way you can manipulate your progression to bring more interest, to bring surprise, but also to elongate the phrase. And remember that I told you guys before, when you elongate a phrase, then you're making it feel bigger. You're making it feel more open, and it's less repetitive that way as well. So let me play the progression all together now. All right, here we go from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. D major, C major, G. Now here comes the change. G major, D minor 7, C, C minor, G major. Again. D major, C major, G major. G major, D minor 7, C major, C minor, G major. Okay? So it's a real powerful tool, you guys, not only to elongate the phrase, but most importantly, to introduce these non-diatonic notes that come into your progression, which obviously it's going to change your melody. Your melody now, when you're playing the D minor chord, you have to include an F natural instead of F sharp in there. So obviously your melody will be affected by these chords as well because they're non-diatonic. So it'll bring some richness to your melody, but it also will hit the listener in a surprising way, in a way that they're not expecting. And again, as songwriters, we always want to balance that familiarity. We need familiarity. Otherwise, people get lost. They can't grab on anything. But we also don't want it to be too familiar where people get bored and that it's too predictable. So using these little variants in the harmony can not only help the surprise in the harmony, in the chord, but also it will cause you to have to change the melody to fit within the context of the correct notes, okay? So there you go. Experiment with it, practice with it. I'm going to do some more videos and utilize some of the other harmony opportunities that you have in the scale, but just experiment with it, see what you can come up with, and definitely keep it there for those times when you're feeling like, this progression is good, but it needs something different. This is one area you can experiment with, and just change it up. And I'm going to do a video and give you guys some examples in the pop world of songs that we know and will recognize where they use these concepts, because it's not just a concept, but it's actually something that people use in their songwriting, and it's a powerful tool. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this helped, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.